Hello everyone and welcome back to Create Above and Beyond. So today's going to be an absolute humongous episode, so I went ahead and wrote myself a little to-do list to help kind of keep track of everything that we need to get done today. So the first thing we're going to do is get all of our tools upgraded. So I want to make a new set of Tinker tools, which I spent quite a lot of time looking through the books and figuring out what I think is pretty much the perfect set of materials and upgrades that we can do at the current stage. We also want to upgrade our backpack. I'm actually going to keep our current backpack as kind of like a tool storage pack, and then actually craft a new one with literally all of the upgrades that we can put on it. Then I also want to get some armor going, so that way we can do some adventuring and stuff and not have to worry about dying too much. The second thing we got to do is we want to go mining. So I need to do a caving trip. We're a little low on resources, so I want to get down there and see what we can find. And I also want to try to tackle a roguelike dungeon. So that'll probably be really exciting, and I'm excited to go through that and see what spawners we can get. That's the main reason I want to do that. The third thing is we need to prepare for our mega factory. So I need to actually design the machines we're going to put in it, dig to bedrock so that we can actually mine our andesite, and I also need to collect all of the building blocks to actually build out our factory. And then our last step here for the day is we need to complete the factory. So we need to connect up all our machines so we're automatically producing. There's one more little note that should be in there, which is bug fix. So anything that's overproducing or underproducing, we need to actually solve and make sure that we're producing the right amount of stuff. Then we also need to build the actual building around it. So we got a lot to do, so without any further ado, let's hop right into upgrading all of our tools. And here it is, our fully upgraded backpack. So this looks like an entire, this is, I think, more than an entire double chest of space that we can just kind of carry around with us. This is sweet. This will really help us out with all of the mining and building we have to do today. So super glad I got that done. Alrighty, so for our armor, I think what we're going to try to do is get a full set of buddy steel armor. So the whole point of buddy steel armor is essentially the more metals you have, the stronger this is. So it starts off at chainmail level and gets stronger and stronger as you get more packs. Because we actually have two metals, we have the base set and the Farmer's Delight metal, hopefully that'll be pretty strong right off the bat here. Now to actually make this buddy steel, we need this buddy steel blend, which we need shredded buddy cards, which is super easy for us to get, but then we also need blocks of iron and blocks of lapis, which we do not quite have enough of yet. So I think I'll just make some iron armor for now, and then we'll do some mining to actually get those blocks ready so we can make our buddy steel armor. Now, the other thing that I've seen in the comments quite a few times is to make some sky slime boots and slings. So essentially what this does is it basically allows you to negate all fall damage. So it doesn't actually add any armor, but we essentially won't take fall damage. We just kind of bounce. I believe you can hold shift to stop, and then you will take fall damage, but that's pretty cool. And then the slime sling, you can pull it back and then fire yourself off. Oh, looks like they changed this. Oh, it's not nearly as powerful. It used to be in old versions, you do it like the way you're going from it, it would sling you off, but now it looks like it goes towards the direction you're going. It used to be a lot more powerful, I believe, but this is still pretty darn good and should help us get around our world a little bit faster. Alrighty, now that we got our backpack done, we can start working on getting our tinker tools. Now to get to the next level, we need to build a large smeltery for that. So to build that smeltery, we need a few different things. We need a smeltery drain, a smeltery controller, and a fuel tank. And then we also just need a whole bunch of stones to actually build it up. The one thing that's kind of holding us back from that is making sealed mechanisms. So it actually says that's a bonus assembly in chapter 1A. So if we go in here, go under overview, through to 1A is copper machinery. Now we do actually have the capability to make these right now by hand, so that's just with some cured rubber and a kinetic mechanism. So it's pretty nice to know that we are going to eventually need to make those. So we can actually start automating rubber sooner than later. So we don't only need it for belts, we also need it for these sealed mechanisms. So now we can just go ahead and craft up our smeltery controller, get the rest of these, and build our large smeltery. So to get the smeltery going, we do need these seared fuel tanks, which we need to fill up with lava. And one cool thing that this pack has is these Eldwood buckets, which can hold actually 3 buckets of lava per one of these. And I found a few of these out in the world in those mine shafts, but some of these are filled with suspicious stew. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take off my nourishment debuff, see if we can't eat up all this stew, and go collect a whole bunch of lava. Oops. Oh no. That sucks. Oh no. This is such a sad looking death. Alright. Oh god, the body's just floating. Oh, what the hell? Why are those placing? What is going on? What? Okay, so I have a theory. Looks like lava is cooking my buckets. I think that's what's happening at least. So I guess those buckets cannot be used for lava. That is, I guess, very good to know. Alright, so it looks like the seared lava tanks do actually just hold lava in them. So I'll just place these 3 down and I guess fill them up by hand, because our fancy elderwood buckets don't seem to actually work. So I think this is a good of place as any to actually build our smeltery. So I definitely want to have it in our blacksmith building. And I think right in this corner it might look pretty good. So let's clear out a space in the wall. And I think I want to place it out a little bit. So I'm going to have my tanks here, controller, casting table, and my drain. And then we can put a faucet off to the side here. The reason I want to put the drain on the corner is because I could put another faucet here and a basin if I want to take out whole blocks. But I think for now, just that table will work. And then all we got to do is build up this wall. And then we need a floor and 3 more walls to actually complete our smeltery. I'm actually going to put a ladder off to the side here. So that way, for any reason we need to get up, we can just kind of climb up this ladder and then access the top of our smeltery. And with that, we have our smeltery. So to know it's actually working correctly, all you want to do is right click on the smeltery controller, and it'll bring you into this GUI, which is basically showing you all the spaces you have to smelt. So with this one over here, our little puny smeltery, we only had 3 slots to actually smelt stuff down. But with this one, we have a whole bunch, and this can actually be upgraded. So it can not only go wider, but it can also go taller. So as we go here, we might make this taller if we need more smelting capabilities. So to actually get into crafting some of the higher tier tools, we need the Tinker's Anvil. Now the Tinker's Anvil is made out of these slime steel blocks, which is the first thing we're going to have to alloy. So alloying is essentially the process of combining 2 or more materials into one material. So example, for this one, we need 1 molten iron, 1 sky slime, and 1 ingot gets us 2 slime steel ingots. So go ahead and put in a sky slime slime ball, an iron ingot, and a seared brick, and those will slowly melt up. So you can see our sky slime goes in here, and then it looks like our brick will probably be next, but those should complete at right around the same time. You can see those complete up, and now we have our slime steel. So we can go ahead and take it out here, and we have our first alloy. So I'll go ahead and craft 27 of these up so we can go ahead and look at some of the new tools that we're going to have access to. So one trick that I saw from the comments is apparently this timer that we have over here is not actually necessary for activating our faucet. I guess in the new update, a lever works just fine. And look at that, it does. And there we go, our new Tinker Anvil. So what the Tinker Anvil allows us to do, it allows us to make the cleaver, the broad axe, the excavator, the scythe, the sledgehammer, and the vein hammer. So the tools I'm going to be making in this episode is I want to make a cleaver as my new main weapon. I want to get a new pickaxe and a new mattock. And then I also want to craft a excavator and a sledgehammer so that way I can mine a 3x3 section. So that'll be really useful for collecting all of the building blocks we're going to need today. Then I'm also going to make a vein hammer for mining. So that'll be really nice for actually being down in the mines and collecting lots of stuff at once. Now, having the alloying ability really unlocks a lot of new materials for us, but one thing I do want to mention is all of these stuff in this book you do not actually have access to. So, for example, steel, there's no way to actually craft steel tools in the mod pack right now. So definitely watch out for that and make sure you can actually use it before you decide to go with it. Same thing with electrum. You can't actually craft electrum right now, so the main materials I'm going to be using is rose gold. It has the highest mining speed of anything else in the pack. It also has this enhanced, which says rose gold goes great with bonus upgrades. So I think that means that like the upgrades are more effective. I'm also going to be using a lot of slime steel. And the reason I'm using slime steel is it gives you this over slime ability. And what that does is you can essentially feed it slime instead of durability. So as I'm mining, I can basically feed it slime crystals instead of it taking durability, which will make our repair cost super, super cheap. So I'll be making sure to either have a one piece of slime steel on every single one of our tools. And then for our cleaver, we're going to be using this knottle wood because it gives a lacerating effect, which basically means that it causes the target to bleed, and also has the highest attack damage of anything else in the pack. So I will go ahead and craft those up off camera and then show you what we got and show you which modifiers we're going to be adding to the tools. So to actually craft the knottle planks, we need to mix sky stone and water, and that gives us our violet sky solution. And that can be used to actually craft the planks. So what I did is I went ahead and put a mixer set up here. So I've got a mechanical mixer above a basin, and then I've got a mechanical pump on the side here going into our foundry. So essentially all I need to do is I need to grab my sky stone and a bucket of water. And then I need to put the water in here and then the sky stone, and that will mix up and craft our knottle stuff. I want to go ahead and take the sky stone out, and then when I flick this lever that turns on the pump, I just have a clutch underneath here, and that pumps it into here, and that way we can see we have our one bucket of violet sky solution. Rose gold is going to be a little more complicated because we need to actually alloy copper and gold, but it has to be in a mixer. To craft up this rose gold, I think what I'm going to do is let's see if we can get away with 2 ingots at a time. So 2 copper ingots and 2 gold ingots we're going to put into our smelter, let those cook up. Then now that those are done, we need to alloy them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my wrench, reverse the mechanical pump, and turn on the pump. It should pump out the gold and the copper, mix those up, and get us our rose gold. And now that that's done, we just reverse our pump again, and that'll pump our rose gold back into our system. And here are our finished tools. I'm really happy with how these turned out. They are so much better than my old tools, and I think they're going to work out pretty good for us. So they all have a piece of slime steel, so they all have the over slime ability, and then I put a piece of diamond on all of them. The other upgrade I did is I put a golden apple on the sword, pickaxe, hammer, and excavator, so that way we have more modifier slots. You can see each of these has 3 upgrades, our pickaxe has 5 upgrades left, and our cleaver has 2 upgrades left. Now some of the other stuff I did is for our mattock, I did silky for the ability, and for our bronze steel vein hammer I did luck for our special abilities, so that way we can get more ores when we're down mining. Now to actually keep these repaired, what I went ahead and did is I upgraded our tree farm. So I added a second section of slimy grass, which is why I needed the silk touch on my mattock, and then I have these skyroot saplings because the leaves from those trees drop slime balls. So essentially what I did is over here in our little sawmill, I have a new section for slime balls. So whenever my tools start to get damaged, what I can do is I can come over here, and I really need to lock these drawers so it's the same stuff. Oh man. Anyway, so when the tool gets damaged, I can just come over here, grab some slime balls, and then smelt these up. And then once those are smelted up, what I can do is I can go ahead and apply those to my tools. So if I go ahead and put my pickaxe in here, you can see that its base durability is 605, but over slime gives me another 210 durability. So now when I take it out of here, that extra 210 durability. And the way we're actually basically raising our extra durability is if you put an obsidian plate in here and then take molten slime steel and pour it on. What it does is it creates these reinforcements, and then I'm basically just stacking up reinforcements on our tools. So you can see it says overforced 1, 21 out of 24. If I add another one, it's 22 out of 24, and it's over slime went from 210 to 214. So for most of my tools, I only need to do like one level of that, because you can see it kind of scales with the amount of durability. So for example, with my bronze steel sledgehammer, I already have 580 over slime, even though it's only overforce 13 out of 24. So the gold pickaxe is probably the only one I'm going to need to go to overforce 2 or more, and everything else I'll just max out at overforce 1. So the other thing I went ahead and did is crafted up my buddy steel armor. So this is made like from the buddy card stuff. It was actually pretty simple to craft. All I had to do was cook up this buddy steel blend, which is made from a block of iron and a lapis block, and then combine that with either shredded buddy cards or full buddy cards. And that gives me my armor. For some reason, our power is only at 7%, even though I thought we had 2 full sets complete. So I'm guessing what's going on there is it needs to be like full sets, like shinies and non-shinies. So we'll definitely have to open up a few more cards and make sure that we get this armor fully upgraded, because 7% is not going to be nearly enough strength. So we're at 2%, or plus 2 armor, plus 5 armor, and plus 4 armor, which is actually worse than iron right now. So we'll definitely have to get this upgraded sooner than later. So now that we have all of our tools upgraded, I think we're going to skip go mining for now, and we're going to jump straight into preparing for our factory. So let's actually start out with digging to bedrock, so that way we kind of get a good layout of where our factory is going to go, and then we'll design our machines, and then we'll collect blocks to actually build up our factory. So the first thing I did is I went ahead and laid out where my factory was going to be. Now the reason this was really important is because this is not going to be the location of our main final base. So what I really wanted to do is make sure that everything was within a few chunk borders. So we've got 2 chunks off to the side and then like 4 chunks in the middle. So that way, like when we eventually want to leave this area and chunk load it, it'll be really easy to chunk load our whole factory at once. And then I just kind of started digging down a, what would it be, a 6x6 hole all the way down to bedrock. If I were to do one thing differently is I would have dug this hole 7x7 or 5x5, because the even numbers is kind of hard to get the pulley to look nice. We're going to have to do a little bit more work when we actually get around to decorating it. So once I got down all the way to bedrock, I ended up actually finding a dungeon in one of the caves down here. So I think pretty soon we'll have to grab the spawner from that and set up some kind of cool mob spawner. Then I just kind of went up and then dug down the other side. And then once that was done, what I did was I went ahead and started digging out our bottom area. So for our bottom area, I just went ahead and kind of duplicated our 4 chunks that are up at the top down at the bedrock. The reason I needed so much space for this andesite farm is because you don't know what andesite pattern you're going to get. So digging out more area is better than digging out less area, just because like you want to make sure that you have a lot to work with. It'll make it a lot easier in the long run in terms of getting your whole factory put together. So then once I was done digging out my basement area, I went back up to the surface to start working on my foundation. So for the foundation, I used some gabbro bricks and some Maya stone with a few factory block accents, and I really like how it turned out, especially with the factory blocks kind of in the center, outlining our whole bedrock. I really like it. So all I kind of did was I just kind of laid a basic foundation. I only wanted to go this far because I want to build my factory before I build my walls. So that way I can kind of like leave openings and highlight really cool parts of the factory, or kind of hide stuff that maybe doesn't look quite as good. So one thing I did to make my life a whole lot easier is I went ahead and made a schematic of both our andesite mine location and our factory foundation. Now the reason I did this is kind of twofold. First is just to make designing the machine a whole lot easier, so I can just pop it into Creative World, design it there, and then use a schematic cannon to place all of the machinery. And then the second big reason is just to help save on crafting time. What I can do this way is I can craft exactly the machines I need, versus if I were to do it all in survival, I'd have to overcraft or undercraft or do a lot more planning beforehand, where this, when I pop it in the schematic cannon, it essentially just gives me a little checklist. It tells me exactly what I need. So to actually make your schematic, you're going to use a schematic and quill and just kind of select the location you want. And then to actually place it down in the world, you're going to grab a schematic table, put an empty schematic in it, and then it'll just kind of load up your schematic into the paper and you can just place it down wherever you'd like. So here I am in my creative world where I just pasted down our foundation and our andesite farm location. Now I did these as two separate schematics because if it was one schematic, it'd probably be a bit too big, and you have to be really careful with schematics because if they do get too big, you can potentially corrupt your world. So you do want to be careful with schematics and make them a relatively small size. Alrighty, so here is the essentially base machines that we need for our mega factory. So over here we have our kelp and wood farm. When I actually build this in my world, I am going to change these for spruce saplings, but other than that, it's going to be pretty much as is. So it's running off of a windmill bearing, and essentially we got 2 layers of kelp farm and then our tree farm up top. And then there is our portable storage interface where we actually have 3 andesite funnels just to kind of speed it up and make sure that we're keeping up with our farm. And those go onto a belt here where we are taking out our spruce logs, our kelp, and our saplings, and those saplings will just be voided. Then over here is where we have our strainer farm. So this chest leads up into the farm, and what this does is it actually supplies the strainer bases with the strainers themselves. So essentially if a chute is underneath a belt, the item will go down the chute and into whatever's below it. So this will automatically supply all of our strainer bases with strainers. Then down below it is where we're actually taking the sand down and processing it. So it comes along here, and there's a drawer for clay and a drawer for sand. Both of those are locked, so it's essentially working as a filter. Sadly, the filtering is pretty cumbersome right now. We have to use drawers. There's essentially no other way to filter, but it'll definitely work for now. So the sand comes through the second one, and I have a line of fans here that'll be blowing water onto them so we can wash the sand as it comes down along here. And then it goes into this drawer here. And the reason we need this drawer at the end is because, like, if this one isn't done processing, it'll basically wait until it's done processing to go through. And it looks like we actually need to move this drawer up or add another fan because this one at the end here won't actually be being washed. So what we'll have to do is essentially just add a second fan down at the end, and we'll need another shaft on that fan, then we can build it up. Then extend our water, so we'll put a block there and a block there, and that'll work. And so now it'll be washing all the way along. So then the clay from that first line, right from the strainers, and then the clay from being washed both come down onto this belt here. Now the last system we have is our andesite farm. So this is going to be kind of our way up and down from the andesite farm and back. So this will be fully automated to basically activate and deactivate on like a cycle. So it'll go down, collect a bunch of andesite, come up, deposit it all, and it should work out pretty nicely. So I'm going to flick this lever and go down. So we've got one pulley kind of running this little lift. It's going to come down, and then once it's down, these little chest contraptions pop out. And what this does is essentially takes andesite from this chest and drops it down into this chest via the chute. So you can see we're getting andesite in this one, and then we're getting gabbro, granite, and diorite in this one. And then that system is on its own little timer, so it's got a powered latch. So essentially right away it activates, pushes out from these mechanical pistons. Then after 39 seconds, which is exactly enough time to fill up an entire chest, it activates back out, and then we would set up a timer to kind of lift the whole system back up. Now the way we're actually filling this is with this little machine I have here. So on either side, we have these belts going through up into our system. But then over here is where we're actually generating our stones. So right now I'm just running with a creative motor. I will be putting in some survival power, but essentially what it's doing is there's a drill above here and then a fan behind it. And then down here we have a weighted ejector. So as soon as this breaks, it gets blown onto the ejector and then ejected off onto the belt. So then it gets flung over here onto the belt. And then we have a sorter here. So this one sorts out the gabbro, granite, and diorite. So that goes into that kind of middle chest. And that way we only have andesite on our end chests. So that way we don't have to do a bunch of belt work from each of these little modules. And essentially what I'm going to do to basically scale up our production is I'm just going to build a whole bunch of these modules all around here wherever I have space on the bedrock. So our little contraption will come all the way up to the top, stop there, and then we would have belts bringing stuff out from these chests. So got a little more work to do. I got to get all of my belt work done, get all these connected, get all of them powered up, and then I also need to do our second processing where we're mixing, smelting, and pressing everything together. Then eventually we'll have a sequence assembly line where we're finally building our kinetic mechanisms. So with our factory building complete, I have some thoughts on the process. I'm going to hold off till the end of the video to actually tell you guys what I think and what I would do differently, but I think we're ready to build it in our world. So to actually take our schematic and basically place it in our world, you need empty schematic, gunpowder, and a schematic cannon, and a schematic table. And then optionally, you'd want a book. So I'm going to go ahead and load up our factory part 1, which is kind of our whole upper area, and you're going to see that slowly loading. Now, one thing that I would say is absolutely necessary to do is to make a backup of your world. If this schematic is too big, essentially when I go to place it down, my world will be corrupted and I will lose everything. So you do want to be really careful with schematics and take your time with it. Make sure to make backups, and if you do have a schematic that's too big, just place it in 2 parts. So it's really not too big of a deal to do differently if you have to. So let's go ahead and place this down. So I'm just going to right click, and it looks like we're good. So we're going to get this into position. Looks like we're pretty close, kind of right off the bat. And it looks like right there. Yep, right there is going to be where we're going to want it. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to place down my schematic cannon, place my schematic in it, place gunpowder in it, and then put a book up here. And what that book's going to do is get us a material checklist, which basically tells us everything we need to get. So the first thing it says is it wants 15 andesite casings. So I'll go over here, and I think I have a few of those. If not, I can craft those up pretty easily. Okay, I've got 48 of those, so I easily have 15. And then I'm also going to grab a chest. I'm going to grab 4 of those because we might need 2 sets. And then what I'm going to do is put the chest next to it, put my andesite casings in. I wanted 15, put those in there. And now what I could do is I can put my material checklist back in, and I can see that that's now no longer showing up. So essentially what you can do is as you're going through here, you can actually check stuff off and kind of keep track of where you're at. So I'm going to take some time. I'm going to get my entire schematic all filled out. I'll get my material checklist done, and we can watch the schematic cannon go. All right, so that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. So got my material checklist. Everything is checked off and ready to go. I've ended up going with 2 chests here. Just to make sure we had room for everything. And the last step is just to go in the cannon and click go. So here we are in our andesite machine factory. This thing is wild. The belt work is crazy, and there's probably a better way to do it, but you know what? I'm absolutely in love with how it turned out. There's so much activity. It's generating us a ton of stuff, and I really, really do like it. So what we're doing is essentially over here, we have these 3 trade stations, which are for extra kelp, extra clay, which we turn into bricks, and extra wood, and that generates us coins. So we don't have too many coins yet, but as this thing kind of progresses and we start to see where our bottlenecks are, we'll start to get like a lot of coins from that. And you can see here we have 1,200 kinetic mechanisms, 400 andesite, and 2,000 andesite casings. And this has been running for less than a half hour. This thing is absolutely wild. The only thing we have to supply it with is saws right here, where you can see our deployers are right behind that. And then over around here, we do have to supply the strainers with the like strainer meshes. But other than that, I mean, this thing is running pretty darn well. So to walk you guys through how this whole thing actually works, we're going to start down here in our andesite mines. So I've got 3 of these andesite like mining machines on each side. Each of like the 4 corners. It flings its blocks down into the middle. We sort it out here, and then it goes up here into these chests. And then we'll wait for that to come down, and this will essentially deposit the chests. Oops. Looks like we had some sort of issue with kinetic mechanisms. But anyway, it'll extend this out, and we'll drop our chests down into our elevator. So we'll wait for that to come back down. So here comes our elevator, and the second it hits the bottom here, there is a redstone contact there, which basically sends it a signal to pull out the chests. And you can see these start to fill up. Now, I do have a huge bottleneck with getting rid of our diorite, gabbro, and granite. So I'll have to figure out something to do there because this is easily overflowing. It's not actually going to clog our system at all because it is essentially being voided, but it's still kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. So the elevator comes all the way up to the top, and then it interacts with these belts. So we're going to start by following this gray belt. So this gray belt essentially takes all of our raw andesite. So it comes out of the 4 corners, which is where andesite is stored, and then it comes right up here into our mixers. So these lines of mixers are mixing the andesite with the kelp blocks, which those come from over here. So that's the clay farm. I did do one change from when I showed it off earlier. I went ahead and put hoppers going into the strainers because you can't actually drop stuff from the top. It has to come from the side. So that's one small change I had to make there. Then the clay comes down through here, and that goes into these mixers, which get the kelp from our kelp and tree farm. I did make a change over there. I swapped it from spruce to dark oak. I think we get a bit more wood from that. And those mix up to get our algal blend, which then comes down here, gets cooked up into our algal bricks right there. And then that also goes into the mixers, which gets us our andesite alloy. Now this one down at the end here, is essentially splitting it off into two. Half of them are going on to join the rest of the andesite alloy, and half of them are going into storage. So that's how I were able to kind of store andesite alloy. So we'll follow this dark gray line around here, which is our andesite alloy, which kind of comes down through here, and it gets split off here. So half of it goes into this basin, which gets logs, and that makes our andesite casing. And then oh god, I keep running into the saws. Then the other half goes over there to where our deployers are actually putting the andesites onto our slabs. So we're getting the slabs from our wood farm. So we have our logs coming in here, which go through here, and they get split. Half of them go to a mixer, half of them go to saws, and then our overflow goes up here to be voided. And we essentially saw it down into slabs, which then go into two places. First, they overflow to basically act as the smelting ingredient for our trade stations. And then the other ones flow through here onto our deployer line. And our deployer line is what actually makes our kinetic mechanisms. So then the last set of contraptions we have going on here are all of these red belts. So these red belts are essentially all going to our void line. So our clay travels along here, gets melted into bricks, which gets compressed into brick blocks, and that goes over there to be sold. Our kelp travels, it travels down over there on that line, and that goes over to be sold. And then all of our stones that aren't andesite travel along this belt. And I'm just storing these for now because I want to actually have them. But I did need to put a void upgrade on here because this filled up really, really fast. So that's a pretty basic explanation of how this all works. If you guys do want to dig in deep into how this all works, let me know if you want to see a schematic. And if you do, I'll leave a pinned comment showing you guys how you can download the schematic for yourselves. So let's take a look at our to-do list. So we did not get around to doing a mining trip, and we definitely did not get around to doing a roguelike dungeon. I would say our preparation, though, is done, so we can knock that off. And then our last step is to connect the machines and build the building. We connected the machines. We did not get around to building the building in today's episode. That will have to wait, but I think we got a really good start here. And if we go ahead and look at our quest book, go into our high aspirations, we are automating clay. We are automating the algal blend. Oh, we got to actually turn some in. So turn in our algal blend. We can click that off. And then we need a brick, which will also just kind of snag from our line. Oops. So we'll complete that. And then we will need our andesite alloy. We are automating that. Kinetic mechanisms. We are automating that. So let's go grab our one mechanism for that. So then we do have a saw. So we can go ahead and grab a saw. I don't have these automated yet. Eventually we might do that, but for now we're just kind of going to leave it as is. And then we are automating our andesite mechanisms, and we cannot automate andesite machines quite yet. The reason we can't do that is because we don't have automated crafting, which you do need for that. So once we get, oh god, get out of here. So once we get into the brass age, we will be able to automate that, but that will have to actually hold off. So put our andesite machine in there, connect mechanisms around, get our andesite machine, check that off, and we will run away from the pillagers. And it looks like from completing that, we get some kinetic mechanisms, redstone dust, and iron ingots. Oh my god, buzz off. Oh no, ah! Alright, anyway, where were we? So, chapter 1 complete. Congrats, now you have passive supply of kinetic mechanisms. This is bound to change the pace quite a bit. Oh my god. Could you not? Congratulations. You now have a passive supply of kinetic mechanisms. This is bound to change the pace a bit. Before moving on, check back thoroughly to your factory for any major bottlenecks. We will have to do that. So after this runs for a bit, we'll figure out what is our main bottleneck, and we can essentially just up the production of that. And now we can move on to the next section. So we're going to wait on that for the next episode. We did actually check off a few of these. So big barrels. Oh, I thought I did that last episode. We crafted the big barrel. Anyway, we did that. I ended up crafting a construction wand just to make the whole placing of the base a lot easier. And then we also did our schematic cannon, which checks that off. All right, so with that absolute behemoth of an episode, let's end it off by opening some buddy cards and seeing if we can't get our armor to be a little more powerful. So we're going to start off by seeing if we can't finish up our basic deck with what we have left. We have, let's see, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more shinies to go. And then after that, if we have extras, we'll craft some Farmer's Delight packs and see if we can't finish that one up too. Alright, so that was a little bit of a letdown from all those packs. We only ended up getting 3 more shinies, but let's see if that upgraded our armor at all. So to actually tell if you've upgraded it, you just put it in your hotbar, right click it. Oh, there we go. It went up to 8%. So a little bit better. We'll slowly kind of work our way through getting all the buddy cards. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5 more shinies of the basic deck. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the Farmer's Delight pack. So the next episode we'll have to make sure to get some more packs so we can actually get those going. Alright guys, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this absolute behemoth of an episode. I had a lot of fun building this factory, but I definitely would do it differently in the future. My main issue with it is that it's too much going on in one place and it all just looks a little busy. I'd really like to highlight my mixer and my deployer line and all that kind of stuff. But just because we had such a tight space to work with, it just didn't really make sense. So in the upcoming episodes, we're going to start on our mega factory where stuff's going to be a lot more spread out and we'll kind of have stuff separated a little bit better. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.